Hello, Orville Nation. Hey, everybody. We have an amazing panel tonight. We have Raquel, the Comtech scholar. We have Starfleet meteorologist, Katie.
Hey, guys.
And our special guest tonight, guys, is Star Trek podcaster, Alison PITT. Welcome, Alison.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, guys.
Wait, wrong way. There we go. I think we're all in the same square order.
Mirrored. Yeah.
I think that we have a couple of icebreakers today before we start. But I just wanted to let everybody know, Alison, what is the name of your podcast and where can we find it?
Sure. The name of the podcast is Daily Star Trek News, and it's a daily Star Trek news podcast. It's not a very creative name, but it's very hard to misinterpret what I do. So, it's Daily Star Trek News, and you can find that wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm going to post
there's also thank you. And there's also a website, dailystartreknews.com. It also does dailytreknews.com. Both of those will go to the same website. And it's got, of course, all of the links to various places that you can listen to the show. And it's got articles and some other stuff on there. So if you're ever not sure, dailystartreknews.com is the place to go, and everything's linked off there.
Awesome.
Great. Hello, Trey from Axonar Comics. Hello, Cinnabon Bunny. Hello, Adega Outlaw. How are you guys doing? We have a very special night tonight. And I did want to break the ice with some images that our dear friend Katie had provided to us, because Katie has been at C2E2, which is, Katie?
Yeah, that's the Chicago Comic and Entertainment Expo, which you can kind of see why they shortened it to C2E2. And that's just a comic book convention in Chicago. It's a massive one. It has, I think attendance was 95,000 people this year, which is larger than the population of Sioux City. In one convention center in McCormick Place in Chicago. And I'd been planning this for over a year with my best friend. And then all of a sudden we wrap in a couple of my other friends and my brother and both of my parents who don't necessarily like crowds. And we all just happen to all go together. And so, yes, this is my first one. For any of you who watch Good Omens or have read the book, I cosplayed as Crowley, and my best friend cosplayed as Aziraphale. And Crowley, of course, is known as the snake in the Garden of Eden and all this wonderful demonic stuff, which I swear I'm not. I'm a very happy-go-lucky person. But this was a fun character to play because I got to walk around like just totally boss, and like I had heels on. I walked like 10 miles a day. And then I found a snake and I said, "Can I hold your snake?" And they said, "For a $10 donation, yes." And so I said, "Here you go." And they just put it on and it crawled all the way around my neck and then up into the wig. And it was so soft, and I loved it.
I was about to ask if that was a real snake, and how did you get it in?
It's a very real snake. They also had it wasn't a kimono dragon, because those things are like wicked poisonous, I guess. But it was like something that looked reminiscent of it. And they named it Double Stuff because it was chubby. And then I got to hold a tarantula named Betsy. And Betsy was cool. She felt like pipe cleaners.
I'm okay with the lizard. Halfway on the snake, really not okay with the spider. So Well done to you for that. You're a very brave woman.
I chase tornadoes. You can't get much more insane than that. It just it's fun though. I mean, once you break through that barrier of it'll be fine, everything will be fine. Yes, there is. Yeah, actually, the snake was like crawling up me and just looked at me. And at one point, I don't think we got it in a picture, he kind of like booped my snoot. And so I was like, oh, adorable.
And the likeness is great, actually. I just saw the picture you sent me. The likeness was fat as wow.
Yeah, it was. I'm very interested in that redhead look because I'm pretty much just a dirty blonde hair color, and it was interesting to walk around with a different shade. And I didn't even just do that. I also went blonde for the weekend. I cosplayed as the 13th Doctor from Doctor Who.
Nice.
Yeah,
You look amazing with the red hair. The red hair is spot on. That's a home run. You look sexy. I love it. I think you should think about dyeing your hair that color. It totally suits you.
I could, I mean, the Scottish heritage in me, that would work. That totally could work.
Yeah.
And then I could cosplay from Brave, so that would work.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Okay, I want to warn any of you in the chat. By the way, hello, Troy. Hello, Philip Gaming. Hello, Adega. Hello, Trey. I want to warn everybody in the chat who has been complaining about a female doctor. If you've once you see Katie's picture, you'll be okay with a female doctor.
Aw, I just had a blast with it. I saw actually a guy do a gender bender of the 13th Doctor, and it looked great.
That's great.
So,
wow.
Yeah, someone
That's
had a
good.
green screen, and I was like, oh, I can edit something with that. So that's the pre-edit. We'll see what the post-edit looks like.
That's great. That's super accurate.
Thanks. It was
That's
all
really good.
clearance
Yeah.
items. I just
Oh,
got them
nice.
on clearance. I think I maybe spent $50 total, which was my goal. Is dirt cheap cosplay that looks good.
Nice.
Yeah, and I want to say hi again to Troy. Troy, welcome for the first time. I think we met at the Professor Geek channel, maybe, perhaps. Well, we didn't meet. I was listening to you, and here is another picture of Doctor Who.
This one I think I'm particularly proud of.
I gotta say, you really got the character down.
Oh, thanks. I did not get the accent. I absolutely did not. But you can tell, this is day 3 of the con. I am exhausted. I had walked in heels the entire day before, and I'm still having a great time because I'm just like, yay! I just had way too much fun. And then I got to go shopping for Doctor Who items, dressed as Doctor Who, and the amount of people who just came up to me and said, Doctor, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I love you people. So if you haven't been to a comic book convention and haven't dressed up as a character you like, do it. Because you will get so many new friends that you just meet for 5 seconds, walk away, and still have a friendship.
And this is the picture. Wow. This is the picture. By the way, you had more than one picture with Adam Savage because I saw you had a picture where he was dressed up as Captain America.
Yes, I ran like 3 miles in about 30 minutes, 20 or 30 minutes, trying to find him on the con floor while he was dressed in cosplay. But this is a painting that I've been working on for about 40-ish hours, and it's of all of his cosplays most of his cosplays that he's done. And on the top it says "Man, Myth, Maker," with myth being duct tape because of Mythbusters, and then maker was out of various making supplies. So I just found in my random box of boxes, and so I gave that to him, and he said he was verklempt. He was completely overcome with emotion to the point where at one point he was just looking down and staring at it like, these are some great memories. And I'm just sitting here like, oh my gosh, I made Adam Savage tear up a bit.
Yeah.
We have a question from Katie. Troy is asking if you've ever been to Chicago TARDIS.
No, but I was invited to because I went to their meetup where I saw an adorable 11th baby doctor. It was a little baby dressed up as the 11th Doctor. It was so cute. But I'm going to try and maybe get back because that's going to be right around my birthday. So we'll see.
Wow. Amazing.
Thanks.
Well, that's a lot of fun. And Alison, I have to warn you that the inevitable question that's coming to you from either Raquel or Katie is going to be, do you do any cosplay?
You're so right, PJ.
You guys can start with that one if you want.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we might as well, since we're talking about cosplay. No, I really don't do cosplay that much. I think I would, but I can never figure out where I want to start and what I want to commit to. But what I do on occasion is like the equivalent of Disney bounding, if that makes sense. Do you know what Disney bounding is?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of like cosplay light, kind of like a normal outfit, but reminiscent of the character. So I've done like if you are familiar with the Star Trek episode Shore Leave, where they're on the Shore Leave planet, I've dressed up as the rabbit from the White Rabbit from that before. And I've done like, the Mouseketeers, and trying to think of what else. I have like one sweater that is looks straight out of Discovery uniform. So I've done like low key Discovery sort of Disney bounding stuff. So that's what I tend to do. But then usually when I'm going to a convention, it's usually because I'm working in some fashion. So like I haven't ever kind of got to the point where I can commit to cosplay. It's a little scary to me too. So I have a lot of respect for you going in and in full cosplay. I have a lot of respect.
Oh, I think I went to my first con and I kind of did a halfway cosplay, just like a shirt that looked like it was the TNG uniform. Mm-hmm. And then the next year I went in an inflatable dinosaur costume with a Captain Kirk shirt. And it's once you go with like the covering your face and then you slowly start to peel back the layers until you're just like, ha, then yeah. That's at least how I did it. But no, any bit of showing your fandom, I think is just, it counts as cosplay.
I once dressed up as a Star Trek Online developer, like a particular one. That was fun because the old podcast that I was on, we did a lot with Star Trek Online, and we did a lot of interviews with them. And so we knew them. And there was one developer who's no longer with the company, but her name was Maria, and she always used to come with pink hair. And so I bought a pink wig and I dressed up as her at one of the meetups and I really messed her up. It was kind of fun. That was fun, but that was the only like proper cosplay. Then again, that was just like, t-shirt and jeans and a wig. So that's
awesome.
And I'm going to politely decline. I see Troy's comment in the chat about the Klingon kit, and I'm going to just, that is not up my alley. Like the idea of having like makeup and wig and all of that all day, it sounds exhausting to me. I'm just not that hardcore, unfortunately.
Let me just show our other colleague as a Vulcan here.
Wow.
Fantastic.
That's a great Vulcan.
Thank you.
The eyeliner's on point.
Thank you.
So go ahead, Kitty.
Oh no, I remember you saying when we first showed this, you did something with your eyebrows to cover them up. What was that again? It was like purple something.
Actually, it's Yoo-hoo glue, and it's standard.
Glue.
It's
like glue stick, right?
Yeah, and that's actually standard practice in the makeup industry. It's if you ever want to disappear some hair, that's the best way to do it.
I just meant disappear in general because I would take that. Occasionally, not every day, but
yeah.
Let's see.
I also dressed up as the grammar police, and of course Andorian. I also do con, and I'm currently working on the Aaliyah probe.
Oh, nice!
Ooh, yes, yeah. I'm excited to see that one.
It's going to be hard with my hair, but I was
going to say, what are you going to do with your hair?
Yeah, I've been working on it for over a year, so I'm going to have. I've had 2 dry runs through it, and yeah.
Wow. I feel like in the presence of greatness here.
No.
The best part is anyone can do it.
Yeah, I guess that's my problem. I never am able to, like, how do you choose what you're going to do? Like that's the hardest part for me, is picking the thing that you care enough about to go out and find it and create it.
I look at the clearance bins. Like with I went to Hot Topic and they had the 13th Doctor sonic screwdriver on clearance for $5. And I thought that wouldn't be too hard to get the rest of it. And so I just kind of made that. I haven't even seen the 13th Doctor's episodes, but I totally like embraced the character and stuff. And then, of course, I just look at the posters around my room. I'm like, I could do Marty McFly. I could do a Lara. I have a picture of a Scottish guy in a kilt. Maybe do that. I don't know. So, yeah, just inspiration from general everyday stuff that doesn't look like it would be too expensive.
And for me, I'm a lot older than I look. So I wanted to bring TOS to the conventions. I have a 28-year-old daughter. I warn you now, Alison. I have a 28-year-old daughter, and I've been watching Star Trek. I've been watching Star Trek for a little over 40 years. So I was going to these conventions, and I wanted to represent TOS. So I just choose things that I find inspiring, and then I do them. And I teach English to English as first language speakers and English as second language speakers. So being the grammar police, I just do to make my students laugh.
Yeah.
I bet that works too. Awesome.
So, Alison, by the way, I love your background there. We were talking about it before.
Much. Yeah,
and,
that was. You could get it on Amazon.
You can get it on Amazon.
Right, yeah, it's just from Amazon. Yeah.
There's another shopping window that is now opened up next to Yoo-hoo.
Yep.
So, how long have you been doing How long have you been doing the Daily Star Trek podcast?
So I started Daily Star Trek News last April, so it's not quite a year old yet. I just ticked over 200 episodes, which kind of blew me away. Whoa. I didn't actually realize that. That's it happened.
Wow.
That is a lot. Yeah. Sometimes I sit there and think I've been doing this a lot. But it's not, it's really not even a year yet. I'm still learning how to do it, basically. Before that, I was on another podcast called Priority One, which is another one on the Roddenberry Podcast Network. And that was more of a weekly sort of magazine show. And so but I did that since 2015. And that one's still going as well. So you should check that one out as well. There's a slightly different format. They cover news as well as gaming and some other stuff. It's a broader topic. Mine is really hyper focused on news. So yeah.
Nice.
Wow. I don't know. By the way, I don't know if you've seen this before, but Katie does her. Have you seen the Katys Meteorologist thing?
Yeah, because you do it in uniform, don't you?
This one.
Yeah.
Fandom forecast.
I have seen it. Yes.
Yeah, my fandom forecasts. Those are that is my brand right now.
Nice. Do you do that all the time? I kind of thought it was like a one-off thing.
No, I did one for Star Wars, which was fun. I didn't do it in costume. Nice. And I did one for DuckTales. This was the first one that I think I did in costume. And then I dressed up as Jeff Probst and did a Survivor one.
Nice.
And now that I have my doctor one, I'm going to get another doctor's costume, but I'll leave that up to your guys's guessing because I'm not telling you. And then I'm also going to do a Good Omens one. And after that, I have so many ideas. Oh, the Orville is definitely coming out. I just need to procure a costume. So if anyone knows where I could get one for cheap, let me know.
I might have suggestions.
Oh, good. I was halfway tempted to just tweet Seth MacFarlane and be like, season 3 promo, weather update. Maybe I'll do it for free.
Who knows? I think eventually, maybe. So Alison, what's your topic for today, for example, on the podcast, or yesterday?
I'll be honest with you. Sometimes it blends together. So basically, it's a pretty simple format, and there's basically 3 stories every day. And then I do also a little bit of trivia, Star Trek history. I have an events segment, so after I'm done here, I'll be compiling all the events to list off for tomorrow's show. The stories from today, the big one, my favorite story of the day was that there's a French car maker called DS. It's sort of the upmarket brand of Citroen, if you've ever heard of Citroen. They've come out with a new car called the DS9. It's a luxury sedan, and it's very beautiful. It has nothing to do with Star Trek, but really? DS9. I know how into DS9 Niners are. They will love that. What's funny is that the way they describe it sounds exactly like the interior of actual DS9. And all the pictures, like the promotional pictures of the inside of this car they're super futuristic, and I swear to God, the same color as they painted the inside of Deep Space Nine. So it's a ridiculous, it's one of those silly things that's just kind of cool. That's my favorite story of the day. But then also I was talking about the Hollywood Reporter ran a video that they found of James Doohan recounting a story when he had helped save a fan's life who was suicidal. Mm-hmm. And he encouraged her to come and visit him at conventions over a number of years. And then later on, she just stopped coming and he didn't know what happened. And he found out years later that she'd actually sort of improved her life and went and got an engineering degree, and it was all down to like his help. So we talked about that. And also Star Trek Online is out on consoles. They have the new 10th anniversary legacy update is now on consoles. And I don't know if any of you play Star Trek Online at all.
I want to desperately, but I don't believe my laptop can make it.
Well, if you have a console, I would suggest trying it on console. I actually find it more enjoyable on the console. It's a little bit, the controls are a little bit simpler, so I find it more enjoyable to play. And this update features Jerry Ryan as 7 of 9 and Sonequa Martin Green as Michael Burnham. And I know they're two different series. They work it out. They do a really great job of weaving these stories that make it make sense that you have all these different timelines going on. It's a really fantastic game, and you should try it out if you get a chance.
I'll bet you $20 it's because of Q. Q is the go-to.
It often is Q. In fact, they have what's funny. There's a winter event every year called Q's Winter Wonderland, where Q like makes this like world inside of a snow globe, and there's all these mini games and stuff. It's a tremendous amount of fun.
Oh my gosh, I got it. I gotta do this now.
There's a lot. If you've never dived into it and if you have a console or a PC, I would recommend trying it out. There's a huge amount of content in there, and there's some really great storylines, because Star Trek Online was going on, keep in mind, while there was no Star Trek on television. It was, well after Enterprise ended, and there was just no Star Trek storytelling being done on that scale. And they have some the Iconian War will always be my favorite. And they have great voice actors. Denise Crosby came back, to Chase Masterson, Aaron Eisenberg, rest his soul. Name a Star Trek actor who isn't Benjamin Sisko, and they've probably been in it, or William Shatner. But they do some fantastic work on that game, and it's a really vibrant and active community. So I can highly recommend it.
Awesome, yeah. Chase Masterson, definitely one of my favorite Star Trek people.
She's wonderful.
I met her. This is a bit of a segue. I accidentally won a date from her.
Oh, nice.
Just dropping that little nugget. No, it was my first convention, and I just walked in, and she was doing like this Star Trek blind date game, and I didn't know what was happening. And they were like, "We're looking for volunteers. Anyone, come up, anyone." And I'm like, "Sure. What could possibly go wrong?" I literally said that, and they're like, "Oh, come on, yeah, no, we accept everyone." I'm like, "What is
all right?"
And so I'm like walking up to the stage, and they're like, "Come on, come on." I'm like, "These are all guys. Is that Lita? What?" So long story short, we ended up doing this blind date thing, and I just told her I chase tornadoes, and I'm looking more for a wing woman to go out on the town and get a few Dr. Bashirs, maybe get some Romulan ale. I don't know. And she picked me. I don't know how.
Wonderful.
I have an actual certificate that says I want a date with her on my wall.
Seriously, you would like her in Star Trek Online, because she actually plays 2 roles, actually 3. Really? Technically, because there's a holo Lita who's a hologram, and then there's also Mirror Lita from the Mirror Universe. Spoiler alert, but she's wonderful. she's like terrible. She commands the ISS Enterprise, I believe, and she's just awful. Which is great, because Chase Masterson, she's wonderful. She just eats it up, and it's a tremendous amount of fun.
Oh, that is so. You have convinced me to start Star Trek Online. Like I had, I don't have that much time, but now I'm going to add it in.
Yeah, I recommend it.
Raquel, do you have a question for Alison?
Yeah. I don't know where to start, because we've shifted gears so many times.
I know, right?
But I was told there was going to be hard questions or something.
No hard questions here.
Okay,
so only hard questions.
So, what would be the pinnacle of success for you? The top, the ideal place that this form of media is going to take you?
I just want people to see me as a reliable voice, basically. The reason that I started the show was because I saw sort of a gap in the market, shall we say, of something that you could listen to or read that keeps you up to date with what's happening in the Star Trek franchise, that isn't peppered in with spoilers and speculation and all of that. So I try to keep it to news and things that will be fun and of interest to people who are Star Trek fans, but you won't really find like the think pieces about, hey, so what's up with the third Romulan from the left in the second episode of Star Trek Picard? Like it doesn't really fit into my show unless it's a really slow news day. But generally speaking, there aren't. I try to avoid spoilers and I try to avoid speculation unless it sort of hits, has hit the mainstream. And I would like to think that people would trust me to give them sort of a fair and balanced view of everything that's happening, in the franchise.
Yeah. Okay. So like a reliable Star Trek channel.
I hope so. That's kind of what I'm aiming for. Yeah.
Okay.
I thought you're pretty objective when you're doing your podcast. Actually, I commend you on that.
Thank you. I try to, and I try to clearly signpost if I'm going to say something that's a spoiler. I try to clearly signpost that, or if there's, we've had a lot of cases where a rumor has got out of control about something to do in the fandom, and I tend to not report on rumors unless it's kind of like all over my timeline, and then I do my best to try and signpost, this is credible because XYZ, or it's not credible, or something like that. Try to cut through all the clickbait and try to just explain what's actually happening, because fandom can get really loud and noisy and really sort of extreme. In my experience, the majority of people who are Star Trek fans are actually not that way, and they don't tend to engage in that type of conversation. So I try to avoid that and just keep it so that you can know what's going on without having to be involved in the drama.
So that said, how do you deal with negative feedback? When you're in the throes of an interview, how do you deal with negative feedback? Because I mean, sometimes it's a din. It can march itself into your channel or into a discussion.
Honestly, I really haven't had negative feedback. And I don't exactly know why that is. Maybe the show isn't visible enough yet. I don't know. Or maybe I just ignore it, maybe. I don't know. I haven't really had any issues with that.
Alison, I think Raquel might not be referring to negative feedback about your show. You might be referring about negative feedback to.
Oh, you mean like the fandom in general?
The fandom.
Yeah, I avoid it. Avoid it like the plague. Actually, because I have two. I am very strict on my social media about what I look at and what I don't, and if I'll connect with people, and if I don't like the way that things are going in the conversation, I mute everybody. I don't like negativity on my timeline. So if people are perpetuating that, I just mute people. I don't tend to unfollow because I like to, I have friends that sometimes go into, we'll get into a debate like that, and I like to stay connected with them. But yeah, the mute button is your friend. Absolutely.
Oh, yes. And I actually, when you mentioned, because I'm a meteorologist and I work in the news, I want to just say thank you for saying this is a credible source because A, B, and C and not doing clickbait, because we all know how prevalent that is right now. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why you haven't had that negative feedback for your podcast, is because you're doing a fantastic job.
Thank you. That's very nice of you to say. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all got to listen a little bit, and I've been listening for several days, and I'm hooked. So,
thank you. That's really kind. I mean, it's designed to be that anybody should be able to pick it up. It's 10 minutes or less, and well, sometimes they go a little bit over, but it should be something that you should be able to pick up and just have as part of your morning routine. Oh, yeah. And of course, if you can't do that, then there's a daily newsletter that'll just come to your inbox, or you can just browse the website too. So, all of that information is there. My job is to just try to sort of compile it into content that you can get sort of wherever you are.
And I'd like to add to Raquel's question that I think that your podcast is general. Maybe it's not out there as much. Maybe people aren't as aware of it right now yet. But those who are, I think it's very friendly to all areas of the fandom, which is commendable.
I try to do that. And I try to, if I have opportunities to elevate other people's voices, I try to do that too. Cause we're all in this together. So
we're all Trekkies.
Yeah, we're all Trekkies.
Well, I had a quick question about podcasting in general, because I have a lot of people that I'm friends with, and myself also included, who want to get more into podcasting, but don't necessarily know how to start. I feel like it's kind of the same thing with you getting into cosplays, me getting into podcasting. I don't know where to start. How did you start?
Well, I was actually incredibly lucky. I got kind of recruited onto my first podcast. Basically, at the time, I was trying to teach my son. I have a 13-year-old son, and I was trying to teach him because he wanted to learn how to be a streamer. Thank you. And he wanted to be a streamer, and he was. I'm trying to do the math. He was 8 at the time, and I like to support my kids, so I was trying to learn how to do YouTube, how to do streaming, how to do all those types of things, and I was. And so I set up a YouTube channel, and I was doing some like stupid little Star Trek Online videos. And I was just learning Star Trek Online at the time too. And I was listening to a couple of different podcasts, and one of which was Priority One, because I was playing a lot of Star Trek Online, and that's the best Star Trek Online podcast that there is, hands down. And so I would like write to them to say, hey, what about this? What about this? And the executive producer, his name is Elijah, who's still on the show. He got in touch with me and said, would you be interested in maybe coming to host? I didn't know anything about it. And so I joined them. That was in 2015. And Elijah taught me everything that I know. And I just got very interested in it, and I sort of took it from there. From podcasting, I started doing audiobooks, and then from audiobooks, I started doing other voiceover work. And there was a year where I was actually moving countries when I didn't really have a job, and so I was doing freelance audio work, and I learned a lot about that stuff. It's just sort of built, over time, just sort of always moving forward, and then I've ended up here. So
awesome. Yeah, no, I definitely, PJ gave me my start, because otherwise I definitely would not have been on a podcast. So thank you, PJ. Pull me up from here.
Don't tell your weather station that I gave you your start.
A digital start.
Okay.
Yeah, it does help to have somebody who already knows the ropes to get you kind of started, and then you can learn a little bit more as you go and learn it incrementally. That does help.
Yeah, I've already learned what StreamYard is, so.
Yeah, this is actually new for me. I've not used this before, so it's kind of a new experience for me.
It's very user friendly. There's only one little snag. Sometimes you got it. Well, unless you're using Chrome, it gives you problems for putting up stuff audio, basically.
I see.
So, but I gotta say, you ladies are all blowing me away. The next thing is going to surprise me is Katie tells me she has an 8-year-old. I mean,
yeah, I have a 8-month-old kitten who's still giving me dirty looks. Oh, he just yawned. Oh, he's adorable.
I think my cat is over there. I think she's sitting on a chair. Yeah. So this is the room that I'm in right now, which you can't see any of, was actually because I work from home. So this is actually my office, and so the cat spends all day just in the chair that's just on the other side of my desk.
Aww.
And she sleeps there while I work, and it's very sweet.
Yeah,
Do you want to speak to that? Because
There's little radar.
I have a lot of friends who work from home,
Yeah.
and then they sort of feel like there's no difference between their work life and their personal life. And then of course we have all this doxing of YouTubers and stuff going on Twitter. So where's the delineation for you? Where does Alison begin and the show begin and end, of course, consequently?
Yeah. Well, Again, I'm really lucky. When I started with, so I'm going to take it back a little bit. So when I started with Priority One, I was actually living in England, and then everybody else, we had one guy who was in Ireland and one guy who was in New Jersey, and so we were all spread out. And so we learned how to, basically, we were all telecommuting for that job, and we came together and worked the technology to produce a great show. And it is a really great show, so you should listen to it. And so I learned that. And then when I moved back over here to the States, I ended up getting a job for a company that's almost entirely remote. It's a software development company, and all of us are remote. But because we are all remote, we're actually pretty regimented in how we work. So we're always on, we have Slack, and we're working and we're available during business hours. So for me, it's a really obvious delineation between my work and like everything else I do, because at the end of the day, I sign off of work and then I go and do something else. I actually physically move. I don't tend to work in the same, like when I'm doing my podcast, I tend to work in a different room than when I'm working during the day. So for me, it's not a problem delineating that, but it's also been the way that I've worked for my full-time job. It's been that way for over 2 years. And for podcast work, it's been that way since I started. So
yeah, and people need to realize
Nice.
that, right? A lot of studies say that people who work from home are actually working more than people who get out into the field, because they feel beholden to their role, or they always feel like, oh, okay, well, if I could just get ahead of it, I'll work for 10 minutes and then I'll leave it. So, it is work. And I wanted you to speak to that. So thank you, Alison.
yeah, sure. It's definitely a challenge. I found myself, I am really, really lucky, because also my partner works from home, and I work East Coast hours. So I'm in California, but I work East Coast hours. So I work 6 to 3. So I'm really lucky that when I have time at home and my family's here, my partner's here. And so I don't feel alone. And I know that that's a common problem with people who work from home. If their partner works out of the home, or if they're single and they're just by themselves, you could like never see another person. But here it's actually always busy and quite social. So the circumstances work out well for me.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, do you? We were talking briefly before about your new YouTube channel, which is kind of it's kind of there to place stuff on as in public, so people can approach it.
Yeah.
But do you ever? And I'm going to post that now. But do you ever want to go ahead and do live streaming? Is that something you want to do? And engage with like the audience and the chat and stuff?
Yeah, it's definitely kind of vaguely interesting to me. So Priority One actually does a live stream on a Tuesday night. So if they've changed the time. It's on Facebook, I believe. It's actually on everything, because they use one of these ones that goes out to Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, everywhere, Twitch. I think they start at 6 o'clock Pacific time, or 5 o'clock Pacific time. I can't remember off the top of my head. So I have done live streaming, and we've always live streamed on Priority One in my early days, which was not the early days of the podcast. It's been going since almost 10 years. In my early days, we used to do audio only live stream. Mm-hmm. And then we also did, in the last few years, we did video live stream as well. Nowadays, it doesn't really work with the format of my show. And you would just hear me screwing up a lot, because my show is scripted. So, and I do that deliberately because of the way that I distribute that content. It's a scripted show. I'm not sure it would work as a live stream. Plus, like, usually I'm in my pajamas and it's late, and it's just not, because I do my day job, and then I spend, by the time I'm actually recording and publishing, it's pretty late. And, that's a level of commitment I'm not quite there yet.
Alison, you know what I'm going to do eventually? Eventually, I'm going to have a little stream it's going to be called In My PJs. And everybody's in his PJs, and everybody who comes on has got to be in their PJs. So
Okay.
I know who to call.
Oh my
And it's usually I record in my closet because it's nice, and the sound treatment is really nice in there.
Yeah.
So,
but for people who are watching, a big part of the reason why a lot of people are in their PJs is because people in comms and writers and people who do voice work and stuff, just imagine yourself sitting at a desk and writing 85,000 words, or imagine sitting at your desk and writing 5,000 words a day. Your tuchus is really sore. You don't feel like wearing pads. So it's not due to lack of work. It's actually, I think it's a part of being so engrossed and sitting and just engaging with your computer to the point where you become symbiotic.
Yeah. We're going to go with that explanation. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, right? Right? Like that's, but for me, that's what it is. When I'm up burning the midnight oil and I'm on my 40,000th word, I'm not here in my suit, guys. I'm not wearing a suit. My hair and makeup aren't done. I mean, I look like the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah.
But so you sort of had a smirk on your face when you were talking about when you went live. And that's usually indicative of some sort of silly story or a dumpster fire or something that went rogue. When you went live, do you have any stories of somebody going rogue or a dumpster fire or a facepalm moment?
Let's just go rogue
well,
right now.
I gotta say, so I mean, we did it for years, and there was always, Elijah, who kind of is the sort of heart and soul and spirit of that show, is really committed to professionalism, and so generally speaking, really nothing's gone so badly that it's ever gone really terribly. But we have had a few moments. I remember. I do remember we have a feedback segment on Priority One, and sometimes it's feedback in tweets, and you know how sometimes, like, if you're ever reading a tweet, it's a little bit hard to interpret like hashtags or emojis or something.
Tone.
And I do remember a time that I was just reading a feedback and just not even thinking, and instead of being like thumbs down, I think I said like downward pointing thumb, and I didn't even realize what I was saying because I just went on to the next thing until everyone else was like, what the hell? And I never quite recovered from that. That was pretty terrible. Oh. And the thing is, so Priority One also does a year-end bloopers special, so you could go find that on iTunes.
Excellent.
Oh,
it's in there from last year's. So
Cool.
yeah,
I'm gonna have to go look for that now.
Yeah, there's a lot of just stupid stuff would happen on that live stream. It was good fun. It was really good fun.
Now the YouTube, your YouTube channel, which I just posted, maybe you want to give us a better explanation than what I just said, because it was very limited. It's called Wait a Sec. Do you want to tell us? Do you want to tell us a little bit? And please, before she starts, everybody take 1 second and subscribe to Wait a Sec YouTube channel, please, guys. I'm going to repost it again.
Thanks. There will be stuff coming out on it soon. It's very new. So I'm an audio producer. That's part of what I do, and I come up with things to do. And then a lot of times I'm just like, well, I don't know what to do with it. It's just an idea, and I go and make something. So I finally decided to actually make that sort of do something for me, which is just, basically I made it. It's the experimental arm of my personal website. So I have a personal website, AlisonPitt.com, where I just kind of gather all of my it's just my sort of audio production stuff, so you can check that out, and there's a lot of my work is on there. And Wait a Sec was just sort of so first of all, the name is from my kids because they are constantly watching YouTube or whatever, and every time I go to tell my daughter, like, come to dinner, she's like, wait a sec. And my son, like, can you go have a shower? Wait a sec. And it's like because it's true that I'm always doing something, so that's where that name came from. But right now, the only thing that's on there is a series of just it's Marry, Kiss, or Miss, but Star Trek themed. And some of them are really dumb, but they were fun. And it was just an idea I had. It's really stripped back. Some of the voices might be familiar, but we don't identify the voices. It's just meant to be fun and hopefully encourage other people to do it too, because it's just a a fun thing to do.
It is fun. It is fun.
Yeah.
And can you tell us who some of your guests have been on there? And I noticed John
so
Champion, you said, was
John
one
Champion is in there. Ken Ray from Mission Log Podcast is in there. Who else did I interview in there? Some people, some of my friends that I ran into. So, I don't think I've come to them yet. I've got some that I still need to upload that were recorded at the bar at STLV last year.
Nice.
So yeah, there's some familiar voices in there too. So it's really just the content, and I hope that people will listen to them, like them, interact, and make some of your own. This was an idea that I had that I don't really have the time to perpetuate. It's not really the type of thing that I can sort of start and keep going in perpetuity, but I wanted to kind of create something and put it out there for people to enjoy. So that's where that is. And I'll be adding to that. When I come up with my next idea, I'll chuck it on there. Eventually I'm going to put it on iTunes as like seasons of a podcast, but I haven't quite got there yet. Top tip, by the way, because so I don't really do video. I know a little bit, but it just takes too long, so I can't be bothered. I'm like an audio person. It's a pain in the rear end to put a static picture on an audio track, and so that you can upload it to YouTube. But Libsyn is really, really good at it. So these are all generated by Libsyn. I have a $5 a month account with them, and then I can upload my audio and a picture, and they do it all for you, and it's wonderful. So there's a top tip for anybody who's producing that sort of thing and wants a little shortcut.
Wow.
Yeah.
Alison, let me also say that Steven says he's going to, in the chat, he says, I'll sub, but you got to wait a second.
Nice.
So you guys all sub to Wait a Sec YouTube channel. It's there in the chat, guys.
Thank you guys.
Let me just say hi to Bird of Prey. Hello, Bird of Prey, Alexander, Stephen Ernest, Kathia, Do Life. I don't ever know how to pronounce your thing. Do Life feed. Trey, Jeff.
Show you guys.
We're good.
Oh, this is my little radar.
Oh, the cute.
He's currently being adorable.
Oh, because you're not paying enough attention.
He was just adorable. I had to show you. Yeah, no, he'll get mad at me. There we go.
Adorable.
He is cute, and you have one in your office too, right, Alison?
Yeah, I do. I don't know if I'm not gonna turn my computer around because so she has her own chair because she sits in it like 10 hours a day and it's covered in fur. And I have to go I haven't defuzzed it recently, so she won't slip. She's a really strange cat. She won't sit in a cat bed or anything. She sleeps on the floor, just the bare floor, or in a human chair. And nowhere in between. So yeah, it's really strange. But she's a British cat. We adopted her in England, and so she's come all the way from England to California.
Well, that's why she's weird. No, I'm kidding.
She's like, I can't deal with any of this.
And guys, also in the chat, please also sub to Katie's YouTube channel. It's So Many Fandoms.
Oh, thanks.
So you were saying that you don't cosplay. It's a lot of work. Well, I have a scenario for you. There's a transporter accident.
Right.
And you are going to have your Tuvix moment. Who is on your away mission?
So I'm going to be like merged with someone.
You're going to have a Tuvix moment, girl. What's going to happen? Who is it? You get to choose.
Wow. Oh.
It's actually a really good question.
So
that is a really good question.
Who you absolutely hate and have an adversarial relationship with, like in the episode? Or do you choose someone where you're like, that would be, ooh.
I would go with somebody that I would like work well with, that like we could combine our powers for definitely the forces of good. And
come on, name somebody else.
Well, okay, so my first choice would be absolutely Riker because I like him.
You have a beard now?
Sure.
You have a beard. Okay, so you are with Riker.
Beard with the long flowing hair. Yeah.
Just be fabulous.
I can put my leg up on stuff. It'd be great.
Yeah. So you're Alison Riker, and
Yeah.
you sit on chairs
Oh.
by mounting them.
Yeah.
Okay, that works for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, I want to do that. So I'm good with that. Yeah, I admire him a lot. So
You
Yeah.
have a little. Your Twitter picture is a little bobblehead Riker, isn't it?
it is, yeah. It's a little pop figure of Riker. I got him ages ago for my daughter's 5th birthday. We were living in England, and so me and my daughter and my son, we went into center of London. There's a giant, like, sort of comic and fandom kind of store there called Forbidden Planet. It's right in the center of London. So we went and we blew all of her money on like Minecraft stuffed animals and toys and everything. And while we were there, I bought a Riker pop figure and a wonderful, it's not here, wonderful figurine of Jean-Luc Picard with a phaser standing over like a dismembered Borg body. I mean, and it's terrible because it doesn't look anything like Patrick Stewart, but I love it.
Okay, Alison, some of the people from Axonar are in the chat. Are you an Axonar fan?
I have seen the Prelude, and I've seen the. In fact, I think I might have actually been a backer at some point because I get emails from them a lot. Yes.
Awesome.
Is that still going on? I haven't been following it, honestly.
Yeah, actually, we're interviewing the whole Axonar gang tomorrow night.
Oh, really?
And they have been filming with J.G. Hertzler and some other actors. So they came to an agreement with CBS, and
right,
they
to
are
finish what they'd started. Yeah,
releasing their next part of the film. So now they can make 2 15-minute films, if I'm not mistaken. So they're releasing it at San Diego Comic-Con, and we're going to have them tomorrow on.
Oh, cool. What, at Comic-Con this year?
Yeah.
Later this year. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I had no idea that they were that far along in the production process.
Oh, yeah. They have a trailer out there. And speaking of the devil, now all the Axonar people are in here. And I guess they came to see you.
Yeah.
Hello,
it's kind of like
Alec.
Beetlejuice. You say it too many times and they show up.
Yeah. Hello, Alec, Trey, and Stogie, and the whole Axonar gang.
Hello, Axonar.
I should do an Axonar fandom forecast. Definitely.
Well, no comment on that. I know. I know they have talked to you, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, wink. Yeah, no, I gotta actually message back, but that's a plan. Cool. I see someone had said what happened to my picture frame. When I was at
CBS. Sorry.
Yeah!
But out of the frame. Sorry.
Well, you may as well introduce them now.
This is Simba. Hi,
Simba.
Oh. She's purring her little face off. Yeah, she's a girl. Oh. She's called Simba. She was a rescue. They didn't. I don't think they realized that she was a girl. So.
Oh my goodness, I love her colors.
Yeah.
Oh, so pretty. Like, what are you doing there, Mom?
Yeah, she'll sit here for a little while. I'm sorry, and I interrupted. Aww. Well, she interrupted.
No, because it's perfect. Because it's actually this happened because my cat Radar decided to knock it down out of anger for me going to C2E2 and leaving him with a friend for the weekend. Oh my goodness, Simba, you are beautiful.
Isn't she wonderful? I actually have a really interesting story of how we adopted her. If you are interested, if we have time.
Yeah.
So I wanted to adopt a cat. And in the United Kingdom, there's a rescue agency called the Blue Cross, which is really great. So if anybody's watching from England, go and check out the Blue Cross. They have all sorts of animals, and they put their profiles up on the web. So I went to their website and I saw her and I was like, I want that cat. And by the time I got to them, they said, oh, she's been adopted. And so I was really sad. So I sort of got into their system and we were waiting for another cat, and another cat came up who was a solid black cat. And so I called them and they said, oh, yep, you can adopt her. You come down and see her, everything. Oh. And I was like, great. And they called me back 10 minutes later and went, I'm really, really sorry. Somebody else was on the line at the same time as you. and they've actually just beat you. And I was like, I was kind of sad. I thought, oh, well, we'll start over again. Then she said, I did see that you had looked at Simba before, and she's actually come back available again. And would you be still interested in adopting her? And I said, yes. And so we went to go and see her, and we just clicked straight away. She's kind of sometimes a bit of a pain.
The way
but
she looked at you.
You know, she's very vocal. She talks a lot, but she's very, you know, she's who she is in her own way, and she's just wonderful. And she's, you know, done really well, considering that we have moved her from England to Florida, and then from Florida to California, and she just kind of deals with it.
How was she in quarantine? Did she have to stay in quarantine when you brought her over the pond?
No, we didn't need to. No, they don't need to quarantine coming this way. They get their certificates and then come over. But we did have to use you have to use a like approved, not shipping company. That makes it sound like really bad, but it has to be like, it was a special company that builds their own crates and things like that. So
pet broker.
Yeah, kind of.
You need one, right? The visa experts. Well, They have international passports for pets in the UK, don't they?
Yeah,
which is very progressive.
Make sure they have, you know, rabies shots and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
So
Radar just struck again and ripped down another one of my posters. I don't know what's going on here.
He's redecorating.
How dare you? That's my meteorology poster.
You're away in the, forgive me, doghouse right now.
I so am. He's got some balls to do that. Whew. I gave him fancy feast today too. He should not be mad.
So Alison.
Go ahead, PJ. Well, no, I was just gonna try and redirect us back onto the show. So I was gonna ask you, you know, I like to get you to try and imagine things.
Okay.
So you have 10 million viewers.
Okay.
10 million. Okay. And you have 5 minutes,
right,
to do whatever you want. What's your topic?
What's my topic?
Yeah. What's the first thing you go to? What's the most exciting, important thing that you would want everyone to know? You've got 10 million eyeballs and 10 million ears, and you have 5 minutes. What are you writing about?
Do you mean that in the framework of like my show, or just in general?
You know what? Choose your own adventure. Either or.
Okay.
I just want the people at home to get to know you and to get to know your show and to become attached to you. So they sub you and they're like, oh, Alison's so cool. She'd get a transporter accident. She'd have a beard. And this is what she cares about.
That is a really, really hard question. And darn you. I think that I would take the opportunity to look at all the different wonderful things that have come out of Star Trek fandom over the years, and look at the good things that people are doing with their fandom. So one of my favorite segments of the whole week is talking about events, which is kind of dorky because obviously, you know, I'm talking about events all over the country and all over the world. I'm not going to hit every single one. And the majority of people who are listening are not going to be able to go to any of the events that I'm talking about because it's, you know, they're spread out. But it's still like one of my favorite things to do is there are people who are doing really good things with their Star Trek fandom, and I want to promote those things so that other people can join in and enjoy it the way that I do and the way that they do. A really good example is the USS Bear out of somewhere in Texas. I want to say Austin. It's Bear County. They're an official chapter of Starfleet, and I love it when I find out about events that they're doing, because I think they embody the absolute best of what Star Trek fandom embodies. And they are constantly raising money for charity and helping the community. And their latest Star Trek Picard viewing parties were at a senior center because they're trying to help the seniors in their community kind of get up on current, pop culture. They're doing a really great job. So if I had those 5 minutes, I would probably take that opportunity to say, these are the best parts of Star Trek, and this is why we believe in it. And here's the wonderful things that people are doing and how you can join in and be part of that yourself.
Okay, so perfect answer then. See, everybody? Except for I still question the Riker beard thing.
It's like, you don't know me very well. There's a lot here. I'm like Shrek. I got layers.
Yeah. There's a lot here.
There's a lot.
What is
Kind
your
of going
favorite?
off.
Go ahead, Katie.
Oh no, you go, PJ.
Oh, I just wanted to ask you, what's your favorite Star Trek show or
Episode.
series?
Everyone
sorry.
has a favorite series.
Series is definitely TNG. TNG is the one that I go back to, like when I'm sad or tired or whatever. And you daydream. It's always on the Enterprise D. Always 100% every single time. So it's hands down. All the other ones I tolerate. It's fine. And I'm okay with that. That's the way that people do their fandom. And I think that's totally fine. And if anybody else has their favorite series and hates everything else, that's fine too.
Katie, go ahead.
Now, I was wondering with I mentioned earlier that I'd ask you a question that I asked Walter Koenig. If you could dress up like a cosplay, money doesn't count, like inhibition, whatever, any go full on out cosplay from any TV show, what character would you want to go as? And it could be your Tuvix Riker if you want.
Any TV show ever.
Any TV show, Star Trek or non-Star Trek? These are the hard-hitting questions that we ask.
Oh my God, you're killing me.
Who are you on Orville Nation? Who are you when you're watching the Orville? Do you watch the Orville? Yeah. Who are you? Like, who do you identify with on Orville?
Okay. So I have to. This is a slight tangent. So when I watch the Orville and when I watch Star Trek, I am not any of those characters myself. I just hang out with those characters. So like when I'm like daydreaming about being on the Enterprise D, it's not that I'm not Worf. Like I'm usually third lieutenant from the left or something like that. And I've got my but I get to go hang out in 10 forward after work or go for a walk in the Arboretum. So that's
Lieutenant
kind
Pitt.
of exactly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to say. Oh God. I
understand Katie's question because it's getting back to the fact that Katie approaches cosplay the same way I do, which is this inspiration. So maybe not so much where you're like, I am Worf. It's sort of more like, it would be cool to step into that person's shoes for an hour at a con.
I love Mal from Firefly. He's rad.
Yes.
Cool. Controversial, perhaps. Loxana Troy, love her.
That's great. Match up Roddenberry. Yay!
And all of that, the wigs and the dress and the everything, like that would be wonderful to walk around in for a while.
That would be incredible.
Pretty much all the other ones are probably going to be weirdly male characters because, like the 10th Doctor, I would do that too.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, and also Billy Piper.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's a lot actually. That'll just have to be the start for now.
Oh man, if you ever find a 10th Doctor costume, let me know. Because that is what I'm currently searching for right now.
And who? Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I'm trying to read a question from the chat. It's jumped on me.
The Love Boat in Space. Yes. Did you actually? I was looking for it the other day and I couldn't find it. There is a clip somewhere from Saturday Night Live. No, was it Saturday Night Live where Patrick Stewart actually came on? They actually did he actually stood up at the wheel, but it was on the Enterprise, and he was like, "Set a course for love." And I can't find this clip anywhere. I was actually looking for it the other day, and I know I've seen it, but I couldn't find it.
Let me just.
Have you seen Avenue 5? Have either of you ladies seen Avenue 5?
Not, because I don't have HBO. But I wanted to. I love Hugh Laurie. I just love him.
But But it's hard to keep up with all of the subscriptions. Like the way that they're moving things now, it's just so hard. So I have Amazon Prime, I have Disney Plus, I have Netflix. So it's just, and in Canada, everyone is like really moving towards hating cable.
Yeah.
So, then you'd have to get HBO, it's just, and you would have to get that through Apple TV here, I think. So it's just, I'm with you, Alison. It's very hard to keep up with all of the streaming services, their costs, and also navigating which show is on which, service, right?
Yeah. I actually haven't had any kind of television since, not like terrestrial television. I haven't had since 2014.
Yeah, you would be a good Canadian because Canadians are like that. They're like they're starting to treat TV like it's the plague. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're not interested in it. Cable is really expensive here. It's $250 a month, and people are just like, nope.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
People are like, nope.
No. I found your SNL video. I put it in the private chat. If you want to share it, PJ, it's at the very bottom.
Good job, Katie.
I type fast. What can I say? No, but just they have a few still pictures and then they have the whole video. And I'm going. You bet I'm going to be watching this.
That's every time I see. So the Star Trek cruise is going on right now, and every time I see pictures from the Star Trek cruise, that is what I think of. William Shatner is going to be there today or tomorrow as well, and I'm like, oh man, Captain on the cruise.
I don't think I would want to be on a cruise ship right now, not with like coronavirus.
Yeah, I really am thinking about them a lot, actually. I really, because I know a lot of people that went on that cruise. One of the hosts of Women at Warp, which is another great podcast on the Roddenberry Podcast Network, Sue is there. Yeah. And I'm like, please just be good. Please be fine. And also, I don't know if you guys heard the sort of really sad news this week. Kenneth Mitchell has been diagnosed with ALS. I don't know if you are familiar with him. He played basically all of the Klingons in Star Trek Discovery. Yeah. And so he uses a wheelchair full time now. And he's there on the cruise too. And, obviously, I don't know if that's, I just want them all to be safe and healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the one good thing, we joked about it at C2E2, but I think it's kind of true, is you tend to find that nerds in the Star Trek fandom carry hand sanitizer a lot and practice mostly good hygiene for the most part. So hopefully they're all okay. But when I was flying back, I wore a mask, which probably was more of a like making me feel better than actually helping thing. And a lady next to me was just sitting there and like a kid open mouth coughed on her, didn't even blink. And I went, "Aren't you afraid of getting sick?" And she's like, "I've lived a good life." And I'm like, "Oh no.
Whoa,
not the rest of us at least.
I've lived a good life. Goodbye, world." Like, whoa.
It's what you don't want to hear on a flight.
Yeah.
Well, I just know what it's like at STLV. I don't know if you've ever been to the Star Trek Las Vegas convention. I've been very lucky, touch wood, that I've never gotten sick afterwards. But basically everybody that I know comes down with what's called the con crud.
Yeah.
It's just the product of being it's the travel and then being in close quarters with that many people for such a long time. So
yeah, agreed.
I'm actually thinking of going to STLV this year. We'll see.
Ooh, that could be fun.
Oh yeah, it all depends on if we have tornadoes or not. But then again, that's my life. Now, the pictures from this, I mean, that's enough. If I just saw that as a thumbnail, I would click on that in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Oh my gosh, that literally that's what I imagine. Like if Star Trek Las Vegas was actually just Las Vegas in the Star Trek universe. That's what it would look like.
Hey, everybody remember that hair? I had something very similar to that hair.
Yeah, I had a perm in the late 80s. Yeah.
The big, massive hair. You know what I mean?
And trying to get the bangs straight up.
Yeah. The wave. The wave. It's the electrocuted with wave look.
It reminds me of, for some reason, of the Sister Act. I don't know why.
Probably around the same time, I would imagine.
I'm such a baby. The more that I look at these pictures, I'm the youngin' of the group. Oh my god.
Oh,
I
that
just
hair
want
is
that
impressive.
uniform.
I mean, come on, that's volume. That's Aquanet for days, baby. Aquanet for days.
So I
That's
have a question
loose.
for you guys
right.
about it's on a similar vein. So one of my favorite things ever, forgive me, is there was a sketch on Saturday Night Live with Chris Pine as Captain Kirk and Spucko. And some people absolutely hate that because they think that it's absolutely making fun of Star Trek, which of course it is. I think it's the funniest thing I've ever seen, and like on more than one occasion can be
Oh my gosh,
found
yeah.
to be like, that's a Star Trek. I love it. What do you guys think?
Oh my gosh, I think it's hilarious.
I can't
Anytime you can
comment
look
it.
back.
I haven't seen it.
You should watch it. It's stupid. It's really, really stupid, and yet wonderful. Especially because Chris Pine is doing his best William Shatner, and it's great.
I will be right back. I need to find my computer cord.
Oh dear.
So that was a yes from Katie.
Yeah.
I can't comment it because I haven't seen it. PJ.
I know I've seen a clip of it, but I don't remember the skit. So
Okay.
I know I've seen it, but you know what? Let me put it up. Oh wait, no, maybe I won't put it up. Otherwise, I won't be able to leave the video.
Saved it with 2% left.
Welcome back, baby.
Whew, that was tight. That was really close.
So now that's that I definitely want to go see it now. And I do remember seeing him doing a skit where he was doing a really good. Yeah, he was doing a really good Kirk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's good. He's a talented actor.
Mm-hmm.
It's a shame that they're never going to make any more of those movies.
Yeah. Oh, you can always hope that they'll do like another revival of the Star Trek movies and have him cameo. Maybe.
Yeah. And it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out because certainly Simon Pegg has been pretty frank about not being involved in anything. And obviously they like to keep things really tightly under wraps. But so we don't have any idea really what's happening, but it certainly sounds like the Star Trek film that they're developing right now is not going to be what we know as the Kelvin timeline. So we shall see.
Can you tell us about that, Alison? So you believe they are working on something?
Yeah. So the Viacom CBS did their fourth quarter earnings call a few weeks ago. And in that call, Bob Bakish, who's the CEO of Viacom CBS, has said, confirmed, because it's been rumored for a while, that they've got 2 previously unannounced Star Trek series in the works, and also a movie that's being worked on at Paramount Pictures. Now, the Paramount Pictures movie is supposedly going to be directed by a guy called Noah Hawley, who did Legion, is it called? Legion and something else that I can't remember off the top of my head. And he's given a few interviews to the Hollywood Rags about his process, and he's been pretty vocal about saying he has his own ideas for Star Trek. He's been in contact with Alex Kurtzman, but there's no mandate to tie it back to what's happening in TV. And then Simon Pegg, on the other hand, has had a couple of interviews now where he's very clearly said he hasn't been asked to be involved. And just a couple of days ago, he was pretty clear that wasn't on the cards for them, that they're not involved in any kind of in that film. So, I don't know.
The Noah Hawley thing is moving forward then.
As far as anybody knows, all we know is that Bob Bakish has said that there is a film in development at Paramount Pictures. Noah Hawley has said he's been working on a Star Trek film. Whether that is the same thing, we don't know, because there's also the whole Tarantino thing, which Tarantino has said, I'm not doing it, I'm moving on to something else. But we don't know what level of involvement until somebody says something concrete, nobody really knows. It's a whole bunch of threads,
vague, right? It's been super vague. I know
I broke into
two
a cold
articles.
sweat when I heard the mention of the Tarantino movie.
Yeah, it's a lot of hinting, and you have to take everything in Hollywood with kind of a bit of a pinch of salt, because until it's like actually hiring people to produce it, it could be here today, gone tomorrow. And the whole Tarantino thing hit at a time when he was hyping Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and I have no doubt that they legitimately were looking at it, and he was taking meetings. I have no doubt in any of that, but probably the extent to which people were talking about it, they were never going to pull that in and check that because it was good publicity. Yeah. So you kind of have to take it with a pinch of salt.
Yeah. And the articles were very vague. Like I was saying before, I think I read 3 articles on it from this week, especially the Simon Pegg one. That's very recent, but just lots of vague with some vague and a side of vague.
Yeah. And which is why I try to avoid doing a lot of those on my show, because unless I can clearly point to something that actually happened, I try to avoid talking about it.
Alison, since we have such a Star Trek authority on, this is one of the questions I actually wanted to ask you. Sure. What is your interpretation of the merger and Sherry Redstone, and what do you think is going to happen? How do you see Trek evolving in the next year or 2 years from?
I honestly don't see a whole lot of change over what we already know and what was already in progress when the merger happened. So Alex Kurtzman has signed a 5-year deal. I don't remember when that expires, but the likelihood that they're going to stop and do something radically different is, I don't think is going to happen. I think they're going to continue more or less on the course that we've got now. We've got, I want to say, 8 series in total in production. That's going to take us a while to get through, and that's going to be slow moving. I think they'll try their hand at another movie, but the movies have not been that successful. And Simon Pegg is right. So I brought the quote up. He said, "The fact is, Star Trek movies don't make Marvel money. They make maybe 500 million at the most, and to make one now on the scale they've set themselves is $200 million, and you have to make 3 times that to make a profit." Mm-hmm. So I think the franchise will keep going, and they will keep trying to make money off of it because it is a business. But I don't think you're going to see any radical change from what we've seen in the past. That whole thing where people talk about the IP split between CBS and Paramount, it was never really as split as you think. It was still all owned by CBS, but Paramount was like a licensee, and they were better at handling movies. So that's what they did. So, there really isn't a lot of change here over what was happening before. It's exciting to think about, though.
Yeah. Well, I hate to say it again, guys, but it's 7:00 and I am way past my bedtime. Yeah, Alison, if you didn't know, I get up at 2 a.m. for work. So it's...
Jesus.
Appreciate your morning meteorologist. That's all I'm going to say.
You do. I get up at 6. So that's plenty early for me.
Yeah, Katie, go do your thing.
With you guys. Thank you.
Thank you for your beautiful pictures. Your pictures are so beautiful. Great job, and thank you for joining us today. You're just knocked it out of the park, Katie.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys are the best. Love you guys. Talk to you later.
Good night.
Good night, Katie. Bye-bye.
Oh, there's that picture. It's so good.
Cute. So cute.
That is so good.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny.
So somebody in the chat asked about the 25% difference. I don't know. I honestly have no idea where that whole business came from. When they were talking about the merger and who was going to handle what, and I'm trying to think back. Just Paramount Pictures is a good film distributor, so that's why they're doing films. And I don't know where the 25% thing came from.
It came from a screenshot of a whiteboard, I believe.
Oh, right. Okay.
From a production team who was discussing how to move Star Trek forward. And so people took that image and sort of said, okay, well, let's talk about this. And I believe it was over an artistic rendering of something. So fans saw that and they were like, whoo, what what is this? And so that is what has caused all of these complicated and emotional discussions.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I tend to look at Star Trek as from a business perspective, so I'm pretty on their side for it. I think that the Kelvin timeline is the best thing that ever happened to the Star Trek franchise. And I know that's a controversial opinion, but strictly speaking from a business standpoint, I think that without those films, they wouldn't have had the capital to then reinvest down the line in the other parts of the franchise. So I think it's ultimately a really good thing that happened.
Let me ask you this. Do you think the Kelvin timeline would have been better off on television? Or do you think it was best to do it in the theaters?
I'm not, I think it's like comparing apples and oranges. I don't, rebooting on television is kind of like, is a little awkward to me. And I love the 2009, that film, that Kelvin timeline film. I wish they hadn't like split the timeline. I wish they'd just done a straight reboot. But yeah, I don't know. Those movies work well as movies. They were produced to be movies, and they work really, really well in that format. I don't really ever want to see a Discovery film because I think it's a different mode of storytelling, a different expectation. And so I don't know how to answer that. Sorry.
Okay. I did want to ask you, wait a second. I did want to ask you, Alison. By the way, how long do we have you for?
Maybe another 20 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. I did want to ask you, oh, I had a question here and I lost it. Is that the kitty?
She wants to be let out. All right, hang on. You think about your
Go ahead.
Right here.
How did I lose this question? All right.
Is it about Star Trek? Because
it's about Star Trek.
actually, what's funny is I do actually cover the Orville and Galaxy Quest. Anything that's sort of I've covered Avenue 5 before. Anything that's sort of in the interests of Trek fans. When the Orville comes back on, I imagine I'll be covering more of the Orville again too. There's a lot of crossover there. Let's be honest.
There is.
So yeah.
You don't review it, right? You said necessarily.
Correct. I don't review it. No. I try to avoid talking directly about the plot of any. I mean, I will talk about things that everybody sort of seems to know that happened in Discovery. I try to avoid talking about Star Trek Picard if I can, because I know a lot of people can't watch it straight away. Stuff that happened, in TNG, I generally take as people know what happened. But I try. I don't know if I do a very good job of it, but I try to be sensitive to people. Oh, thank you. I try to be sensitive to people who maybe haven't been able to see something yet, or, that sort of thing.
Now, what's your relationship to, and I know you and I messaged about this. Mm-hmm. So what's your relationship with Roddenberry Entertainment exactly?
Yeah, so Daily Star Trek News is part of the Roddenberry Podcast Network, and we have a podcast of a network of 7 shows, I think. Some of them are produced directly from Roddenberry Entertainment. So Mission Log Live, and the Trek Files are all produced by Roddenberry Entertainment. And then the rest of us are independently produced podcasts that we get some basically infrastructure and marketing support from Roddenberry. So, we get together once a month and we talk about stuff, and we work on their table at the big conventions, and we represent the network when we're out and about, that sort of thing.
So are there aspiring YouTubers who can aspire to work with Roddenberry Entertainment? Is that
well, anybody can aspire. No, I think my understanding of the network and the network strategy is that they are looking, they have a vision for where the net. In fact, that's one of the things that we're working on as a network at the moment, is talking about our vision and where we see, like, who we are and what our identity is. And then when there's gaps that need filling, then we would either develop something new or go out and seek something new. So in the case of my show, I was already working with the Roddenberry Podcast Network from Priority One, because they're also on the network as well. And so when it came time to do my show, that was me pitching them, because I saw that as a niche market that was not being currently addressed. So that's where that came in, and that's how that adds to that network. We actually, if anybody hasn't seen, there's a network page. If you go to podcasts.roddenberry.com, that's a listing of all of the podcasts that are there. Most of them are Star Trek, and there is one that is not. And each of them fulfill a slightly different niche in the fandom. So Mission Log and Mission Log Live are really talking episode reviews. The Trek Files, which is hosted by Larry Nemeczek, is doing sort of deep dive into historical documents, and there's some really great nerdy stuff in there. I mean, it's hardcore. Priority One, like I said, is sort of a more magazine format, and they concentrate more on sort of news and gaming and fandom. Women at Warp, of course, are looking at a number of topics in Star Trek fandom through a feminist lens. I don't think I'm forgetting anybody. And then there's Shabam. Shabam's the newest one on our network, and it's actually a science show that's designed for children and their parents. And the first season of that is out now. It's basically tells the story of a zombie apocalypse in episodes, and then applying science to those, like basically the science of a zombie apocalypse. It's great. It's a really great show. You should check it out. But it's not specifically Star Trek related. It's science.
Very cool. Yeah. Wow. Okay. That's very interesting. So that's podcast.roddenberry.com.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Now, I need to ask you this. Who is your favorite Orville character?
Okay, so I really, 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 really liked Alara, and I was really heartbroken when she left. And I was like, wait, what? She's gone? That made me really upset. I also like Gordon. It's Gordon, right?
Yeah, Gordon.
He makes me laugh so much.
Gordon is funny.
I'd like every time. So the episode where they go back to Zalea and they're flying in, and he's like, wow, looking at all this, it's so beautiful. It just makes me realize my family is trash. Like, I love that part. It just makes me laugh every time. So yeah, probably those two guys. Actually, and honestly, I love every single one of them, all of them. Bortus makes me crack up laughing. The time when he turned up with a mustache, like nearly wet.
He looked like Tom Selleck.
So
It
bad.
was so stupid.
So bad.
And of course, and Seth MacFarlane is wonderful. He's so amazing. Like, I only knew him from like American Dad before, and I was like, it's gonna be all fart jokes in space. And I was really, really, really pleased to see that that's not the case. And I think the Orville is doing amazing Star Trek, better than Star Trek is at the moment. But
Oh, that's so good.
controversial take.
Well, you said your TNG was your favorite.
Yeah.
And it is very much an
very
homage
similar
to
to that, yeah.
to TNG. So yeah, it makes sense. And Raquel, I never asked you, who's your favorite character on the Orville?
Actually, it switches back and forth. Like right now, to tell you the truth, I just finished watching the Norm Macdonald interview show where he was interviewing everyone, and so just like looking at his career and then looking at Yaphet, I don't know. Like, I think that Yaphet is the ultimate Slimer. So I don't know. I right now, like here tonight, in the mood I'm in, it's Yaphet, the ultimate Slimer. I mean, if Yaphet could fly,
Yeah.
come on, guys. So tonight I'm in a Yaphet mood.
I do think it's wonderful about the Orville, and it's one of my favorite parts, is that the characterization of those characters is really, really mature, I want to say. I expected the whole, like, between Captain Mercer and, God, what's her name? I can't remember things.
Kelly?
That's it. I was like, Peggy. It's not Peggy. I expected their relationship to be really tropey and you're like, oh, battle axe, ex-wife, and it's not. I think it's really it's nuanced. And even people like Yaphet has his moments. I mean, he's a total slime bag most of the time. But there's depth there. He's not just a caricature of, a little creepy guy. So I think they've done a really wonderful job with that.
I feel the same way as you did, actually, but I had no knowledge of Seth MacFarlane. That's not really my cup of tea. So I had zero knowledge of him. However, I did know through secondhand news that it was going to be a lot of bodily functions and bodily fluids. And so I thought, when I turned it on, I was shocked because this was the Seth MacFarlane that I knew was singing jazz and liked Thelonious Monk.
Right.
And so that's when I was like, oh, this is the other side of his brain. Welcome.
Right.
So then after that I was hooked because wow, and then the gravitas, he was adding all of this. I completely agree. I was pleasantly surprised because if it went to the potty humor, I was going to so tap out.
Well, there was a little bit of that.
But
they handled it okay. They balanced it out. It was fine.
Yeah, not compared to the clips my daughter showed me when she was growing up of some of the crazy stuff that he's done before, where it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
So do you
By the way,
think
have you listened to his Christmas album? Because it's amazing. It's the best. It's my favorite Christmas album, by the way.
Wow, really? I've heard a little bit of it. But
yeah, it's great. It's really good. Sorry, I interrupted you, PJ.
No, I was just going to say, so do you think that Seth has found a good formula to integrate parody and comedy into traditional, what we would consider Trek? You think he's found the right formula?
I personally do. I do think there were a couple, it took a couple of episodes at the beginning to kind of find that balance. I actually think the pilot is really terrible. I was not impressed at all, which is a shame because that was directed by Jon Favreau, wasn't it? And I was surprised that it came out so poorly. I thought the humor felt shoehorned in.
Though, let me ask you this: have you seen it since you've watched season 2? Have you gone back to watch it?
No, I haven't gone back and watched it from the beginning.
Because
and I wonder if I would feel that differently.
I feel differently about it now because I have a different appreciation now that I've gone back to see it. Because now I put it in the context of the rest of the episodes and the rest of season 1 and season 2.
Yeah. But yeah, certainly as it matured, I think they hit what I would say is a realistic balance of humor and drama. And part of what I love about Star Trek: The Next Generation is that they had that perfect mix of humor and drama. There were some very heavy episodes. I mean, hello, best of both worlds. And then there were some, pretty light episodes like, The Game. And then, what's the one where Data in the holodeck doing this stand up? I mean, it's stupid, but the balance of those two things, I think is real life. There's super dramatic stuff happens to all of us, but then we also still have a sense of humor. And I think that the Orville's managed to capture that in a pretty balanced way. That I personally think they do it really, really well.
Well, very early on in Star Trek, The Next Generation, the word went out that Seth MacFarlane was a huge fan. And he had been swatted away from even doing a cameo. So he was basically begging for it. Yeah. So I remember reading in, this sort of pre-Web 1.0 life that I remember reading it in the newspaper where he basically begged to have that cameo on the show, and it was a dream come true for him. Yeah. So having read that article in pre-Web 1.0, I just remember thinking, you know what, I got to give this guy a chance, because if he's this big of a fan, it's either going to be a dumpster fire or it's going to be an homage, because, I know that he wanted to attach himself to the actual Star Trek. Yeah. So I was willing to give him a chance, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
Who would have known that he'd have launched this series and it'd be going so well? I actually think, Alison, do you think, my personal opinion is that the Orville's really going to blow up after season 3? What are your feelings on that?
I think, I honestly don't know. I think it was a good move to get them off Fox, because I know that it's taking it behind a paywall, which is not a popular position to do. But I think that it being on the Fox network sort of perpetuated the stereotype that it was going to be just like Family Guy or just like American Dad and all fart jokes and toilet humor and stuff like that. And I think taking it
You're
off
right.
of that and putting it onto Hulu, I think will make it, I think, potentially more appealing to a wider audience. I do think that the problem that they have is with not Star Trek Discovery, but people discovering it and understanding it, because it's really hard to encapsulate what that show is without comparing it to Galaxy Quest, which is a parody, or without comparing it to Family Guy, or without comparing it to Star Trek, which it is similar, but it's sort of in its own thing. The finale, I can't remember what it's called. The finale of season 1, where they keep screwing up the timeline, is a really, really great sci-fi story. It's really nuanced and mature. And how do you put that in a trailer? And then also explain the like really sexist green guy that is going around the ship. Do you know what I mean? It's a hard balance to kind of explain to somebody until you've watched it. But ultimately, I think it was a good move for them to move on to Hulu.
Yeah. Let me ask you one more. I agree. One question about Picard.
Sure.
They seem to be filming it at 43, 44 minutes. So they're on a streaming service, but they seem to be filming it in a way that they could reinsert it into regular television, maybe syndicate it. Do you know anything about that?
No, I know that. You may or may not know, last summer, CBS All Access did a trial with The Good Fight, which is another one of their flagship series. They actually broadcast that on CBS terrestrial. That particular one took a lot of chopping and editing to get it to fit into their 42-minute or whatever format, and they discontinued that pilot. They said that they're not going to do that anymore, chiefly because the creatives behind the project were they felt that they lost too much of the storytelling when they had to make those editorial changes. And I kind of feel like that would be the same case if they tried to do that with Star Trek. Part of the reason that they put it, I mean, yeah, they're trying to sell their service. That's true. But part of the freedom that comes with being on a streaming service is that you don't have to hit that number. You can tell the story as it's meant to be told. And I know that there were a couple of short episodes and there were a couple of super long ones in Star Trek Discovery. I don't see what the advantage would be to Viacom CBS for them to do that. I don't see what the incentive would be for them to do that.
The only thing I would consider is that it would somehow be available to go into syndication later on. That's the only thing I can think of. But
the problem is what they're doing with syndication is they're syndicating to other streaming services. So that's one of the pillars of the new Viacom CBS strategy, is that they are a content creator for other services. For instance, they've got a series on Disney Plus right now. The Diary of a Future President is a CBS produced product, and they're farming that out to somebody else. So I don't think that restriction is there. I think television is dying, basically.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting you, but I just wanted to say that I completely agree with you, because I think it's very important to remember that this is also international. So as they're selling this out to these different streaming services, I mean, it's going up to Crave TV in Canada. And Alison, you lived in the UK, you know what I mean. What we're getting in Canada on all the different streaming services, it's basically a feeding frenzy. One day a Stargate is available on Amazon Prime, and then a month later it's on Netflix, and then it's pulled completely. So we're seeing all of these different shows being bought up by these different streaming services, and their availability is very different as you go around the world.
And I would also put a little asterisk as well. Star Trek Discovery is actually available as a terrestrial broadcast in the UK. They don't have the same restrictions in terms of that really strict sort of half an hour format that America does. It's actually kind of infuriating if you live there because the start and end times change. So they are actually broadcasting Star Trek Discovery, I believe, with commercials on the channel E4, which is one of the digital Freeview channels. So it is possible. I wouldn't be surprised if they continue that model. I wouldn't be surprised if they did all of Star Trek Discovery, and if the price was right, they could do that with Star Trek Picard as well. But probably wouldn't work in an American market, but overseas where the broadcast norm is different, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and that's key. I mean, before we used to be able to log into Mexican, like Netflix from Mexico, and we would have a completely different selection of science fiction. As a matter of fact, 5 years ago, I could log on to the Irish Netflix, and it was the best science fiction to be had, the best science fiction selection to be found. So Alison is, well, it's obvious that you're right, but I'm just trying to echo and amplify the impact for people who aren't American. Yeah. We realize this to a greater level, and we hear Alison, and we know what she's saying is 100 proof, right?
Alison, I know we need to let you go, but if I can ask you a final question from the chat. Sure. Have you ever heard Rod Roddenberry or the people in general at Roddenberry Entertainment have what their opinion is on the Orville? Do they enjoy it or not?
No, I don't know. I haven't. We really do tend to talk a lot about Star Trek, mostly.
I had to ask because we're an Orville channel. So
yeah. Well, I know that there's a lot of people who cosplay the Orville at STLV. They're always well received. I would surmise that most Star Trek fans are actually friendly towards the Orville as well. So I would surmise that it's probably seen in a positive light. But no, I haven't spoken to anybody in so many words.
Well, listen, I want to thank you for joining us, and Raquel as well. Always a pleasure to have you with us, Raquel. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Alison, for everything you participated in today. And I enjoyed your company, and thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, ditto to you, and thank you for your hard questions. They were a little challenging. I'm gonna have to do a Riker cosplay now.
Well, that would be great. I'd love to see you in a beard. You're gorgeous, so seeing you in a beard would be hysterical. I also want to thank everybody who came to watch us today and interact with Alison and PJ and myself and Katie. And I just want to say, that Orville Nation, we're very happy to come into your homes and into your phones. And thank you for visiting and spending time with us today.
Yeah, thank you to everybody who joined us.
Thanks, Raquel. And Alison, you're always welcome back. I think actually there's a lot of things we have in common. So any way we can help at any time or collaborate on whatever, just let us know.
Yeah, I will do. Thank you.
Okay, good night, guys. Good night, the dude.
Bye, everybody. Bye, Orville Nation.
X&R Comics, Troy Piccelli, Joe Lau, Berta Prey, Trey, Steven, the other Steven, everybody. Thank you very much. Good night, guys.
Good night.